imagine if you were the first 5 humans on the planet and like no technology existed, right? When the first people arrived or were here, however you think about that. Life was really hard. Like, you had nowhere to live that was safe. You were out in the elements getting eaten by everything from bugs to larger animals, right? You had no food, you had no clean water. If you got sick, you might die. You had no health care. And over the course of however many thousand years people believe that we've been here, depending on your religious beliefs and evolution beliefs, we've gotten to this point in time where life is better than it's been for all or most of the human experience. I would argue all. And with that said, we still have an incredible labor shortage. A lot of people do not get high quality healthcare. They have to wait a really long time for healthcare. People are dying unnecessarily. People are getting sick unnecessarily. So everyone's talking about 20 years from now, no one's gonna work. And it's like, maybe, but let's talk about today. There's real problems that we need AI to help us with. We have a massive labor shortage in critical industries. But everyone's fast forwarding to something I call Chicken Little syndrome, right? 10% of the people always believe that the sky is falling, right? But we have to create a vision of the future that people want to believe in, because we have a lot of work to do to build it. We've come probably 90% of the way in thousands of years of the human experience to creating a life where humans get to focus on what makes them fulfilled, spend more time with relationships, really have amazing, happy, taking care of lives. All people, right? But we're not there today. And everyone who's fast forwarding to maybe nobody's going to work in 20 years is skipping this entire experience of what we need to achieve. What does the perfection of healthcare look like? Where every single person has access to top quality medical care worldwide. That is never going to be possible without having a highly trained, scalable workforce that's affordable. That's called AI. And so that's what I'm really excited about. That's why I've spent 10 years of my life building this platform with this incredible team to help make this technology usable inside organizations and for all of humanity. Like, this is the most democratized technology in the history of technology and what it's enabling. Everyone can go to chatgpt.com and access this incredible knowledge that they were never able to access before. This incredible thought partner, right? Or any of the other numbers of services that are out there. So we'll take healthcare and look at that. And let's break down life into other areas. Let's look at the education system, right? How is our education system educating our children and our people for the future world that we're going to be living in, which is going to look different than today, right? So that's cool. That's something we need to think about. So we have healthcare, right? So that's important. We have contribution and fulfillment, which to me is a core tenet of happiness, right? We have wealth. What's wealth going to look like in 2035, right? Everyone's talking about this. And then we have, relationships and family, right? And inside health, we have a lot of things. Inside health, we have health care, like what happens when I get sick? How do we decrease mortality risk during pregnancies and with infants, right? Which is one of the key metrics of seeing how good a healthcare system is. How do we decrease rates of cancer? How do we decrease rates of Alzheimer's? That's all standard healthcare. But what about like day-to-day health? Like our overall fitness? Like what's the HRV of our population? Like heart rate variability, right? I wear the Whoop, awesome. It's interesting to see, how that impacts. And that's an interesting indicator for us over time, over our lives. How is our nutrition? Right now, we have way more food abundance, but what's the quality of that food, right? I think you could argue that our food was more nutritious 150 years ago than it is today, which is kind of concerning. We have a lot more of it, but it's not quite as healthy for us. And so that's great. Technology helped us make sure that people aren't starving of hunger, but they might be starving of nutrients. Why is that? If we had more scalable, cheaper labor, Could we solve that problem? Could every cow be able to graze in the field? You know, right? Could every plant be organic if you're vegan? Because we have a scalable workforce. The reality is we are turning over labor tasks. We've been turning over labor tasks to technology for hundreds of years, you know, and we're going to continue doing that. And when we do this, it allows us to accomplish more, and it ultimately allows us to live our best lives. It allows everyone in Vision 2035 to live the lives that only people that have over $100 million get today. That is why we need to work really hard to make it happen, because everyone should be able to have that awesome life. And that's the vision that we need to be talking about. Oh, it's not possible to do that. You're right, it's not. That's why we're all working so hard to make this possible, right? Like, I'm working my ass off to build a world that I think people will work 2 to 4 hours a day max. But they'll have a better life than they've ever had in the history of humanity. So I realize kind of the ridiculousness in working the amount of hours that I work when I know what the world's going to look like in 10 years. But I feel like if we can bring that world sooner, it's worth it. Because a lot of people today are struggling and no one talks about them. So we need to look at the world on a very macro perspective at what this AI is going to do. So that's my platform.